It's called The Taxidermist's Lover. I don't even know who to call. I've wanted to move out. The house is beginning to look like some sort of a natural history museum. All these horrendous stags leering down at me while I'm trying to read or do a crossword on the couch, or that revolting jackdaw skull he insists on having on the shelf in the bathroom. He says it's rare. Jackdaws are fucking everywhere, and inside of each of their heads is a skull. Rare nothing. Lately, he's started to mix his collection together, you know. I came down one afternoon to find him affixing antlers from a young stag onto the head of a small rabbit. He just stared at me and said it was a jackalope and it would sell for thousands. I told him then that he wasn't God, but he ignored me. He sold the poor brown-eyed rabbit with the antlers for $8,500 on the internet. Tonight, I was just sitting here on the bed painting my toenails like any other evening, and I looked at the clock and noticed he hadn't left his studio. I mean, not that he ever leaves his studio except to get some toast and maybe a salvadine, but it was getting late, and he promised we could, it had been a while. It's been so hard to be with him lately. All I can think of is his hands skinning those poor creatures and plucking their eyes, and I just can't have those hands on me anymore. I mean, cold hands are cold hands, but when his are cold, they're just feel like death is all over them. He'd stopped smelling a Jean-Paul Gaultier and started smelling of formaldehyde a long time ago. I suppose I don't have to have them on me anymore now. So I went downstairs to see how he was, try and drag him away from whatever creature he was moulding or stuffing or preserving, and when I opened the door, I could hear this noise, this pouring, hissing noise. It was dark though, except for his desk, which always had around 3 lamps on it so he could see exactly what he was doing. I could see him kneeling on the floor, stock still. He was vomiting. My own stomach dropped. As I approached, I could see he wasn't heaving the contents of his gut out on the floor, but out of his mouth was pouring sawdust. It had formed a pool. He was frozen. He didn't even acknowledge me as I asked him how could I help. I was panicking, but not crying. It was frightening to see him this way, but as I knelt down in front of him and saw the glass that his eyes had become and the complete stiffness of him, I knew he would not change or get better, and this is how it was meant to be now. So I got up and I left, just like that, and I closed the door behind me, and I came back up here, and I think my toenails are still wet. They've smudged and some sawdust is stuck to them. I should call somebody, but I don't know who. I wanted to move out, you see. I don't want to live in a natural history museum. But I don't have to now. Do I? Oh my goodness. I can horrify you even further. This is called Unfortunate. It had started as just another series of headaches every few days for a week, clustered at either side of her forehead, at the front, just above her temples. She would wake in the morning crying with the pain, and her boyfriend just thought she was suffering from night terrors. She'd just wipe her nose and put on the kettle and tell him she was grand, it was grand. Night terrors? Nothing, they'd be easier than this. She'd pop every pill in the pain-killing spectrum, and still nothing could defeat the throbbing, the pushing from inside of her head. The baby cat would look at her differently too, since they started. This morning she wakes, and it is different. The pain is different. Similar, maybe, to when all the dull annoyance of muted agony that wisdom teeth cause all of us at some point are forcing their way into our mouths. She feels as though the teeth have broken her bones, and suddenly are there in her mouth to be used. Her face is wet. She rubs it, and it is sticky and red, and that is coming from her temples, and there are 2 hard protruding lumps, like teeth, head teeth. The cat is on her and it licks her damp cheeks, and she lets it because it comforts her. He has gone to work, and she leaps from the bed to her dresser in terror at what has been done to her while she slept. She screams aloud at the white stubs protruding from her skin. It is broken and scabbed, and she can feel them pushing even more, and then she weeps, and with her hands she covers her eyes, and tears wet her palms. The morning passes, and by the afternoon she has cleared herself up and is sitting in the garden and is calm. The cat cat is on her lap, sleeping. The lumps had grown longer and longer, and she had sat in the bottom of the shower until the pain had stopped. She had dried her hair with a hairdryer and sat naked at her dresser and then went out into the garden. It wasn't too cold that day, raining a little bit maybe. When he eventually gets in, exhausted from the work, he finds her lying, smiling, hidden in the back garden on the lawn beneath the tiny lame crabapple tree with the baby cat. Large skeletal antlers, like a reindeer, protrude from her forehead. She is no longer bleeding. The headache is gone. Her eyes are wide and brown, and her nose is pink at the tip. She opens her mouth and bleats softly to him that she is happier than she has ever been. She closes her eyes, and the cat opens his.